The boiler fix took 2 hours instead of 6. I pulled into the driveway at 30:47 p.m., 4 hours early. Steam curled under the master bedroom door. I opened the door. Denise. Rick Holloway, her sister's husband. My bed. I pulled the door closed. Quiet. Controlled. The deadbolt I'd installed myself slid home with a click. Muffled shouting through the wood. Denise's voice, then Rick's. I ignored it. I called Carol. Rick's wife. Bring your camera. Please subscribe and share where in the world you're watching from right now. Your support keeps these stories coming. My name is Dean Hartnett, 58 years old, facilities foreman at Midwest Manufacturing, locksmith, husband of 22 years. The last one might need updating. I stood in the hallway, back to the wall, phone in my hand, waiting for Carol to respond. Carol, Denise's sister, Rick's wife. Through the bedroom door came muffled sounds. Denise crying. Rick threatening to break it down. Let him try. I installed that door myself. Solid core, steel-reinforced frame, commercial-grade hinges. It would hold. Everything in this house would hold. I made sure of it. I started at the plant when I was 18, janitor. Night shift, mopping floors and emptying trash while everyone else slept. My father worked the Joliet steel mills for 35 years until they closed. He taught me one thing that mattered: show up, do the work, keep your word. The rest takes care of itself. By 22, I had my locksmith certification, studied nights after my shifts, practiced on discarded locks I salvaged from renovation dumpsters. The plant manager noticed, started calling me for lockouts instead of paying a service fee, then for security assessments, then for maintenance projects nobody else wanted to touch. 40 years later, I run facilities for 200 employees. Every door, every alarm, every mechanical system answers to me. I know where every key lives and what every code unlocks, the same way I know this house. I bought it when I was 30, a foreclosure with good bones and bad everything else. Spent 2 decades learning electrical, plumbing, HVAC, replaced every window, rebuilt the front porch, installed the security cameras myself, one at each entrance, footage stored on a server in the basement. The basement where I keep my collection. 314 antique padlocks, cataloged by origin, mechanism, and acquisition date. Cross-referenced in a leather-bound journal my father gave me. Russian padlocks from the 1800s. Chinese puzzle locks that took me weeks to solve. German warded locks with keys like sculptures. And the Bramah. 1804. The lock that couldn't be picked. Its maker offered 200 guineas to anyone who could open it. 67 years passed before someone claimed that prize. A locksmith named Hobbs spent 51 hours on it. Methodical, patient, documented every failure. 67 years of people trying and failing because they didn't understand what they were dealing with. Patience, precision, proper engineering. I married Denise when I was 36. 2 years of courtship. She laughed at my lock collection. I took it as affection. She called my work blue-collar, honest. I heard respect. I thought a lot of things. Tommy came a year later, my son. I taught him the same lessons my father taught me. Show up, do the work, keep your word. He's 21 now, works construction, has my father's hands. Good kid. Through the door, Denise's voice shifted from crying to demanding. Dean, this is ridiculous. Open this door right now. We need to talk about this like adults. I didn't answer. Nothing she could say would change what I saw. My phone buzzed. Carol. On my way. 15 minutes. I typed back. Bring someone you trust. Rick's voice now, smooth as a pitch. even to an inch of wood. Dean, buddy, let's not do anything hasty here. This is all a misunderstanding. We can work this out. A misunderstanding. My wife. His wife's sister. My bed. I looked at my hands, calloused from decades of work. These hands built this house, installed every lock, wired every camera, the same cameras that recorded Rick's truck in my driveway. How many times? I'd never checked. Never had a reason to. I had reasons now. The Bramah sat in my basement, unbroken for 67 years because people underestimated what they were dealing with. They saw a simple padlock. They didn't see the precision inside, the mechanisms designed to defeat every trick they knew. Rick saw a maintenance man. Denise saw a boring husband who worked too much. They didn't see the security system storing footage of every entry. They didn't see the locks on every door. They didn't see me, not yet, but they would. I checked my phone again, 12 minutes until Carol arrived. I could wait. Waiting was something I understood. 67 years the Bramah held. I'd held for 22. 3 years. The affair had been going on for 3 years. I stood in the hallway, back against the wall. The timeline, 3 years. The math ran itself without my permission. Not because I wanted it to, because my brain had already been doing the work, filing away details I refused to examine. Now those files opened whether I liked it or not. The jewelry. Denise started wearing new pieces about 3 years ago. A tennis bracelet, gold earrings, a pendant with a small diamond. I said nothing. Maintenance foreman's salary doesn't cover tennis bracelets. I paid the bills. I knew what came in and what went out. The math never worked, but I made it work in my head. Maybe she'd been saving from the household account. Maybe her mother had given her something. Maybe I was wrong about what things cost. I wasn't wrong. I knew I wasn't wrong. I chose not to know. The salon appointments started the same year. Once a month became, twice a month became weekly. Manicures, highlights, treatments I didn't understand and didn't ask about. She'd come home smelling like chemicals and money, and I'd kiss her cheek and ask about her day. "You wouldn't understand," she'd say. "It's a woman thing." The comments came later. Small at first. I let them pass. "Rick's doing well at the dealership. Management track, they're saying. Must be nice to work somewhere with air conditioning. At least Rick has ambition." That last one landed in the kitchen on a Tuesday night. I'd just finished rewiring the garage after a 16-hour day. My hands were cut from pulling cable through insulation. She said it while scrolling her phone, not even looking up. I let it go. Easier to let things go. Rick, her sister's husband, the one who shook my hand at every family gathering like he was doing me a favor. "Dean, buddy," he'd say, drawing it out. "Dean, buddy," keeping those buildings warm. Good, honest work. The way he said honest, like it was a consolation prize. Family dinners at Carol and Rick's place. Me at the table with my hands folded while Rick held court about quarterly numbers and customer satisfaction scores. Denise leaning forward, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm when he made a point. I told myself I was seeing things. The barbecue, 3 summers ago. 4th of July at Carol and Rick's house. I manned the grill because that's what I did. Burgers, hot dogs, smoke rising, heat from the coals on my face. The useful tasks. Denise and Rick sat together on the patio, heads close, talking about something that made them both smile in a way I hadn't seen Denise smile at me in years. I flipped a burger and told myself families were supposed to be close. After that, she started scrolling Pinterest in bed. Dream kitchens, farmhouse sinks, marble countertops. She'd save them to boards with names like "Someday" and "When We Renovate." 20 years of evidence surrounded her that I could build anything she wanted. I'd rebuilt this entire house with my hands, but she never asked. Not once. She wasn't saving those kitchens for me. Rick's truck, red Ford, F150, dealer plates, custom accessories. Hard to miss. Impossible to miss. Janet Pruitt. The neighbor 3 houses down. 68 years old with a retired schoolteacher's attention to detail and too much time on her hands. She'd been complaining about a red truck parking on her street for months. Taking pictures to document a noise complaint, she said. Blocking her mailbox access, she claimed. I never connected it. The truck 2 blocks down, always on the same days. My work days. Janet Pruitt had been photographing that truck for months. I'd never asked what her timestamps showed. Through the bedroom door, Denise started crying again. Performance tears. I recognized them now. Carol would arrive soon. Cold clarity settled into the space where shock used to be. Not anger. Not yet. Something more useful. The Bramah Lock held for 67 years because it was engineered to anticipate every attack. I hadn't been engineered for betrayal, but I was a fast learner. Rick's fist hit the door. The wood rattled but held. You can't keep us in here. His voice cracked on the last word. I'll break this thing down, Dean. I said nothing. Leaned against the hallway wall, phone in hand, and waited. Another impact. The door didn't move. Solid core, steel frame, commercial hinges. I'd installed it myself 2 years ago when we renovated the master suite. Denise had wanted French doors. I'd explained why they were a security risk. She'd rolled her eyes and told me I was paranoid. The pounding stopped. Dean. Denise's voice now muffled through the wood. Softer, the victim tone. Dean, please. Do you know how lonely I've been? You're never home. You're always at that plant, always fixing something for someone else. I checked my phone. No new messages from Carol. I needed someone to talk to, Denise continued. What? Someone who saw me, who noticed me. You stopped seeing me years ago. The same script she'd use on a marriage counselor. The reasonable explanation. The shared blame. I'd heard variations of it 100 times. Small complaints dropped like breadcrumbs over years. You work too much. You never take me anywhere nice. When's the last time you planned something special? I kept my mouth shut. This isn't all my fault. Her voice climbed half an octave, words coming faster now. You never took me anywhere. You never bought me anything nice. All those hours in that basement with your locks while I sat upstairs alone. Did you ever once ask what I wanted? Did you ever once? I'm going to need you to stop talking now. I said it quietly, barely above a whisper. The hallway swallowed the sound. Silence from behind the door. Not one excuse changes what I saw with my own eyes. More silence, then movement. They were pressing against the door, straining to hear. I'd made them lean in. Dean, buddy. Rick's voice dropped. Smooth again. The practiced warmth of someone who closed deals for a living. Let's think about this rationally. What are you going to do? Call the cops? Over a family matter? This is between us. No reason to make it something it doesn't have to be. I watched the door, waited. We can work this out, Rick continued. Denise and we made a mistake. I get that. But dragging it into the open, involving lawyers, cops, whatever you're thinking, that doesn't help anyone. It just hurts Carol. You want to hurt Carol? Using his wife as a shield. Come on, man. Open the door. Let's talk like men. I let the silence stretch. 5 seconds. 10. 20. Nothing from either of them. I already called Carol. The words dropped into the quiet like stones into still water. She's on her way, and she's bringing someone. Not a sound from behind the door. Not a breath. I pictured Rick's face. The silence where his charm used to be. The realization settling in that the maintenance man he'd dismissed for years had already made the first move. The second move. The third. Denise started crying. Not the controlled tears from before. Real fear. The sound of someone understanding, finally, that the rules had changed. My phone buzzed. Carol's reply. I'm bringing Miranda. Miranda? I didn't know the name. Carol did. Carol had been planning something. The certainty in her voice when I'd called. The lack of surprise. She'd known. She'd been waiting. I slid the phone back into my pocket. Behind the door, Denise's crying continued. Rick said nothing. The bluster was gone, replaced by the silence of a man running calculations and finding no good answers. The Bramah Lock sat in my basement, 67 years of failed attempts preserved in brass and steel. People had tried everything. Brute force, clever tricks, sophisticated tools. The lock held because it was designed to hold, because its maker understood that patience and precision beat violence every time. I'd built this house the same way. Every lock, every camera, every door. They'd been living in my security system for 3 years, and they'd never once thought to wonder what it was recording. My phone screen dimmed in my pocket. Through the wood, Denise's crying had faded to ragged breathing. I could wait. A silver Lexus pulled into the driveway. I straightened from the wall, watching through the hallway window as 2 women emerged. Carol stepped out from the driver's side. The passenger moved like someone billing by the hour. Mid-40s, sharp features, dark hair pulled back, carrying a leather briefcase. Not a witness, a lawyer. I opened the front door before they reached the porch. Carol's eyes met mine. Red-rimmed but dry, the look of someone who'd finished crying days ago. She embraced me. Brief, tight, her mouth near my ear. I know, she whispered. I've known for 6 months. I was building a case. My hands went still on her shoulders. 6 months. The words hit harder than finding them in my bed. I'd thought I was alone in this. Thought I was the only one who'd been made a fool. Carol pulled back and gestured to the woman beside her. Dean, this is Miranda Chen Whitfield, my divorce attorney. She specializes in adultery cases with complex asset situations. Miranda extended her hand. Firm grip. Eyes that assessed without judgment. Mr. Hartnett. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances, but I'm glad we're finally meeting. Carol's told me a great deal about you. She glanced toward the stairs. I understand the situation is contained, locked in the master bedroom. Door I installed myself. A flicker of approval crossed her face. Good. We have work to do. Is there somewhere we can spread out? I led them to the living room. Miranda set her briefcase on the coffee table and opened it. Inside, file folders arranged with color-coded tabs, typed labels, more organized than my own case files. 6 months of preparation stacked in neat rows. Carol sat beside me on the couch, close enough that our shoulders touched. I noticed it 8 months ago, she said. Rick's schedule started matching yours. Every time you worked late, he had a client dinner. Every time you pulled a weekend shift, he had inventory. Too perfect, too consistent. Miranda pulled out a folder, blue tab. Credit card statements, she said, spreading pages across the table. I scanned the highlighted charges. The Naperville Marriott, 347. Same date, I pulled a double shift to cover Christmas overtime. Restaurants, neither of them had reason to visit alone. Jewelry purchases that didn't match any gifts Carol received. Another folder, green tab. Miranda laid out photographs. Janet Pruitt's photographs. Rick's red truck, dealer plates visible, parked 2 blocks from my house. Timestamps in the corner of each image. 12 photographs spanning 4 months. The third photo showed 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'd been replacing the HVAC compressor in Building C that morning. 8-hour job. Every single timestamp matched a day I'd been at the plant. Your neighbor thought she was documenting a parking violation, Carol said. I asked to see her photos. She was happy to help. The front door opened. Tommy walked in carrying a 6-pack, expecting a normal Thursday dinner with his father. He stopped when he saw the women, the papers, the photographs spread across the table. Dad? What's going on? I stood. Your Aunt Carol. And her attorney. Denise and Rick are upstairs. Tommy's jaw tightened. He set down the beer with more force than necessary. I found something, he said. He pulled out his phone. Last month, when I was organizing your financial papers for the refinance you mentioned. Credit card charges that didn't make sense. I didn't want to say anything without proof. He showed me the screen. Screenshots of statements. Charges at hotels. Gift shops. A jewelry store in Oak Brook. My son had been investigating. Carol had been investigating. Janet Pruitt had been documenting. Everyone around me had seen what I refused to see. Miranda gathered the photographs and statements into a neat stack. Mr. Hartnett. Carol mentioned you have a security camera system. Interior and exterior footage. Stored on a local server. Months of recordings. I'll need to see it. I retrieved my laptop from the kitchen. Logged into the security interface. The footage loaded in thumbnail strips. Front door, back door, driveway, Rick's truck. Over and over, arriving after I left for work. Leaving before I returned. Months of evidence I'd never bothered to check because I trusted my wife. Miranda leaned forward, studying the screen. Timestamps are clear. Vehicle identification is clear. This is exactly what we needed. Carol had assembled the evidence, the way I'd assemble a master key system, every piece supporting the others. She gripped my arm. I spent 6 months hoping I was wrong, she said, praying I was paranoid. Running the same numbers over and over, looking for innocent explanations. Her voice caught. Your footage is the last piece we needed. Both divorces get filed tomorrow morning. Simultaneous, neither of them will see it coming. From upstairs, a muffled thump. Denise's voice, too faint to make out words. Tommy's hands flexed at his sides. They're still up there. They're not going anywhere, I said. Miranda closed her briefcase. The click of latches sounded like a verdict. Mr. Hartnett, I suggest we invite them down. They need to understand what they're facing. I looked at the evidence spread across my coffee table. 6 months of Carol's work. Janet's photographs. Tommy's discoveries. My own security footage. A case built without anger, without confrontation. Just patience and precision. The same way I'd always worked. I climbed the stairs and stopped outside the bedroom door. The same door I'd installed myself. Solid core, steel frame, commercial hinges. The lock turned. Same click as always. I stepped back, let the door swing open on its own. Rick emerged first, shirt untucked, hair disheveled. His eyes swept the hallway, calculating angles, searching for an exit strategy. Behind him, Denise clutched her blouse closed, mascara smeared beneath her eyes. They expected an argument, maybe threats, the kind of emotional chaos they could navigate with charm and tears. They found 4 people waiting in the living room below. I gestured toward the stairs, said nothing. Rick's salesman smile flickered on like a reflex. He descended first, Denise trailing. Their footsteps slowed as they reached the bottom and saw what covered the coffee table. Carol sat on the couch. Miranda stood beside her, briefcase open. Tommy leaned against the far wall, arms crossed, jaw tight. No seat offered for the cheaters. Rick's smile held, but something behind his eyes shifted. He turned to his wife. "Carol, honey, let's talk about this privately. Whatever Dean told you." Carol's expression stopped him mid-sentence. Not anger. Something more useful. The look of someone who'd already processed the grief and arrived at resolution. Miranda stepped forward. "Mr. Holloway, Mrs. Hartnett, please direct your attention to the documentation." She lifted the first folder. Hotel receipts fanned across the table like playing cards. The Naperville Marriott. Room 412. Charged to a visa ending in 7823. Miranda's voice carried no inflection, just facts. Room numbers. Dates. Dollar amounts. December 14th. March 3rd. April 19th. The dates continue. Rick shifted his weight. Business meetings. Client entertainment. The Naperville Marriott is 14 miles from your dealership. Your expense reports show no client entertainment on these dates. Miranda set down the folder. Your personal credit card statements tell a different story than your professional ones. Denise's hand found Rick's arm. He didn't acknowledge her touch. "This is circumstantial," Rick said. "Hotel stays don't prove anything." Miranda lifted the second folder. Photographs. Janet Pruitt's timestamps visible in each corner. Your vehicle. A red Ford F-150 with dealer plates registered to Holloway Auto Sales. Photographed on Maple Street, 2 blocks from this residence. October 7th, 10:47 a.m. October 19th, 11,023 a.m. November 4th, 9,048 a.m. She laid out 12 photographs in a neat row. Mr. Hartnett's work schedule places him at Midwest Manufacturing on each of these dates. T-hour shifts, sometimes longer. Rick's jaw worked. No words came. "Coincidence," Denise said. Her voice carried the tremor of someone reaching for a script that no longer fit the scene. Rick visits the neighborhood. "We're family." 23 visits in 4 months, Miranda said. All during Mr. Hartnett's work hours. None on his days off. I opened my laptop. The security interface loaded. Footage queued. Rick's truck pulling into my driveway. Rick walking to my front door. Rick entering my house using a key I never gave him. 47 entries. 47 times he used a key I never gave him. "Business trips," Rick said. His voice had lost its smoothness. "Client entertainment." The footage kept playing. Denise's eyes welled. The tears came easily, practiced. She turned toward Carol. "You don't understand what I've been through, the loneliness." "Dean, never stop." Carol's voice cut through the performance. One word. Final. Denise's mouth closed. Carol stood. "I'm not crying because I'm surprised," she said. "I'm crying because I spent 6 months hoping I was wrong, running the same numbers, finding the same answers, praying for innocent explanations that never came." She looked at her husband, the man she'd married, the man she'd built a life with. "You never even tried to hide it well. You just assumed I was too stupid to notice." Rick reached for her. "Carol, we can work through this. Counseling, whatever you need." "What I need," Miranda said, "is your attention. Both divorces will be filed tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., simultaneous submissions. Emergency motions to freeze joint accounts have already been prepared and will be processed within hours of filing. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., no warning." Rick's jaw went slack. His salesman posture collapsed. "You can't." The motions cite documented evidence of financial misconduct and marital infidelity. Neither of you will have time to hide assets, coordinate stories, or warn each other. Miranda closed her briefcase. The legal process begins tomorrow. Tonight, I suggest you consider your options carefully." Denise reached for Rick's hand. He stepped away. His hand moved to his pocket, reaching for car keys that weren't there, already calculating his exit. The movement was small, instinctive, the gesture of a man who saw the ship sinking and was already calculating his own survival. I watched my wife's face as she realized what that step meant. 3 years of whispered promises. 3 years of stolen afternoons. 3 years of planning their future together. And the moment trouble arrived, he moved away from her. The Bramah sat in my basement. 67 years of people trying and failing because they underestimated precision engineering. Rick had made the same mistake. He'd looked at me for years and seen a maintenance man, a simpleton, someone too boring to notice and too weak to matter. He wasn't looking at me like that anymore. The filings hit at 9:03 a.m. Monday morning. 2 envelopes, 2 courthouses, simultaneous strikes, no warning. I know because Miranda called me from the courthouse steps. Rick was at the dealership when the process server found him. Denise was still in bed at the house she thought was half hers. By noon, both joint accounts were frozen. By 3 p.m., the emergency motions had been granted. By Friday, the auto industry grapevine had done what gossip does best. Rick Holloway, sales manager, top closer. The guy who could charm anyone into anything, caught in his brother-in-law's bed. The dealership general manager called Rick into his office 4 days after the filing. I heard about it from Tommy, who heard it from a friend who worked the service bay. Glass walls, everyone watching. Rick walked in with his shoulders back and walked out carrying a cardboard box. Sales runs on trust. Customers hand over $30,000 based on a handshake and a smile. Rick's smile had just become evidence in 2 simultaneous divorce proceedings. The general manager couldn't fire him for adultery, but he could eliminate his position during a restructuring that happened to occur the same week. 3 dealerships in the region. None of them called back. The bourbon collection went next. 47 bottles Rick had displayed in a custom cabinet, labels facing out, never opened. Happy Van Winkle, Blanton's Gold. A bottle of Macallan he'd bought to celebrate making manager. Carol's attorney itemized everyone. Liquidated at auction for Carol's settlement. Denise's reckoning came slower. The credit cards caught up with her first. Illinois law is specific. Debt incurred during marriage for non-marital purposes gets assigned to the spouse who created it. Miranda had documented every charge. The tennis bracelet, the salon appointments, the hotel rooms Denise paid for when Rick claimed business expenses, gifts she'd bought him that never appeared in our household. $17,000, all hers. The church was harder to watch. Grace Community had seen us every Sunday for 15 years. Potlucks and prayer groups, Christmas pageants where Tommy played a shepherd. Pastor Jim Welch had married us in that sanctuary. Now, the women Denise had sat with for years suddenly had full pews. The men Rick had golfed with found other foursomes. Pastor Jim called me once. Offered counseling, marriage restoration he called it. I thanked him and declined. Some things can't be restored. Some things shouldn't be. The Pinterest boards became an exhibit. Miranda's paralegal had discovered them during the asset investigation and screenshotted every saved post. Vacation homes in the Outer Banks. Master bathrooms with heated floors. Living rooms that cost more than our house. 20 years I'd spent renovating. 20 years of my hands, building, fixing, improving. And she'd been saving pictures of what she really wanted. Evidence of dissatisfaction entered into the court record. The boiler in Building C needed a new circulation pump. The security system in the East Wing wanted an upgrade. 3 of my maintenance techs were out with the flu, so I covered their shifts. Show up. Do the work. Keep your word. My father's lessons. They got me through 40 years. They get me through this. Rick moved into an extended stay motel off the interstate. I heard he was interviewing for positions in Indiana, far enough that the story might not have traveled yet. Denise stayed in an apartment on the south side, the kind of place she'd have called depressing 6 months ago. The house sold in March. 28 years of mortgage payments, 20 years of renovation, split down the middle, minus her debt assignment. I walked through it one last time before closing. Casts, empty rooms, clean floors. Every lock I'd installed still working. My footsteps echoed on the hardwood I'd refinished myself, summer of 2019. The kitchen still smelled faintly of sawdust from the cabinet replacement. I took the Bramah with me, the 1804 original that held for 67 years. It sat on my workbench now, in the apartment I'd rented near the plant. Smaller space. Quieter. The collection needed reorganizing anyway. Tommy stopped by on moving day. Helped me load the display cases into the truck. He asked if I was okay. I turned the Bramah over in my hands. Brass worn smooth by 2 centuries of attempted picks. Every scratch a failed attack. Every mark a lesson in what patience could withstand. Yeah, I said, I am. If my story resonates with you, tap like and comment a rating from 1 to 10. Explain your score. I read them all. The apartment had been mine for 3 months now. I stood in the spare room I'd converted to a workshop, turning the Bramah over in my hands. T. Dixter, Tour. Brass worn smooth by 2 centuries of hands that tried and failed. The lock that held for 67 years because its maker understood something most people never learn. No one called, no arguments through walls. Just the hum of the dehumidifier and the smell of metal polish. Tommy came for dinner every Thursday. We'd grill steaks on the small patio, talk about his construction projects, watch whatever game was on. His mother's name never came up. We'd run out of things to say about her months ago. Carol stopped by sometimes. Sunday afternoons, usually. We'd sit in the kitchen drinking coffee, 2 people who'd learned the same lesson the hard way. She was dating again. A hospital administrator. Quiet guy. Good with numbers. I turned the Bramah over in my hands. The wear patterns told 67 years of stories. Failed picks. Broken tools. Patience outlasting force. I set the lock back in its place of honor. Center of the display case. Right where it belonged. 22 years. I thought I was locking the wrong person out. Turns out, I was just waiting for the right moment to lock them in. Patience and precision. Proper engineering.